Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Let's just get into it, Cohen. The past 48 hours under the new administration, the Trump administration, so many executive orders signed. He ended up pardoning or commuting the sentences of all of the January 6th insurrectionists, including the most violent, were commuted, but they're still going to be released. I mean, we're talking about the head of the Oath Keepers, the head of the Proud Boys, people who were convicted of the most violent, terroristic, sedition type crimes, who were, their cases went before juries. These are people who tried to kill police officers and people who, even beyond this case, have the most violent, horrific backgrounds designed to harm individuals, as we would read the Department of Justice sentencing memos. I mean, these are the worst of the worst, most dangerous type of people who are now walking free. Then also Trump talking about the tariffs, 25% tariffs starting February 1st against Mexico and Canada. Trump thought that Spain was part of the BRICS bloc when it's part of the European Union. He says he's going to do 100% tariffs on Spain. He has a moratorium on all foreign kind of military aid. There's not been peace in Ukraine in 24 hours now. Secretary of State Rubio says, maybe 100 days or longer. But he goes, but Trump kept his promise, Rubio says, because all he promised, according to Rubio, is that he said that he would say that there would be peace, but not actually do it, which of course is a total lie. Donald Trump did an executive order getting rid of birthright citizenship, which is unconstitutional. I mean, literally the Constitution provides for birthright citizenship. Trump's declaring cartels terrorist organizations. And when asked if that means he'll put troops into Mexico, he said he's not ruling it out. His inauguration speech talked about invading Panama and taking it over. The Panamanian president had to respond and say, absolutely not. In the past 24 hours, President Xi Jinping has spoken with Vladimir Putin about strengthening their alliances as a direct middle finger to Donald Trump. I'm talking about a lot there, and I'm just getting started. But Cohen,
you forgot the old mass deportation now institution of that, the Department of Government Efficiency, which all along we have been talking about, was supposed to be a committee of two. It was supposed to be a program, which was how it was described. It is not a program. It is now, in Trump's estimation, it is a department, and that department is looking to hire 20 additional people, according to Trump's statement. And that's a big one, according to him. Look, what can we possibly say? You have heard me say it here on this show, and some of you have turned around and said, how could you possibly say that? That this is making us mad. I told everybody again and again and again, when Donald Trump says that he's going to do something, he is going to do it. And I like the fact that I turn on mainstream media or cable news stupidity, and they're all, the pundits, they're all shaking their heads, right? All the Democratic pundits. Oh my God, how could Donald Trump actually do this? Why would Donald Trump actually do it? Newsflash. Because he told you he was going to be doing it on day number one. He told you on day number one he was going to pardon these January 6th insurrectionists, or as he calls them, patriots and hostages. These are but a few 1,500 people in totality. So imagine how that makes the Department of Justice and the prosecutors feel. He told you that he was going to institute mass deportation on day number one. And let me tell you from inside information, they are actually working on that. They're even on the inside talking about the establishment of internment camps. And then he talked about leaving the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Accord. Imagine how our allies, imagine how other countries feel right now as we pull out of these incredibly important global initiatives.
Can I ask you this question, Cohen? I don't mean to interrupt you.
course.
Who are our allies right now? I mean, usually you need a plan, right? Like, okay, under Biden, we're NATO, our traditional allies, NATO, Canada, Mexico, we would build these bridges. But like, who are the allies under Trump? Because Xi Jinping and Putin, they're allies with each other. We're not allies with them. Maybe in Trump's mind, we are. I don't know.
Don't stop at Xi Jinping. Kim Jong-un is part of that triad of terror as well.
Is that so? So the only foreign leader who Trump didn't mention Putin at all. He didn't mention Xi Jinping at all in terms of threatening them the way he was doing to our allies. He did say Kim Jong-un in North Korea is a great place. He said, great place for condos. Great place to, seriously, he said, great place to build condos. So he spoke positively about Kim Jong-un. So is that it? Is it America and Kim Jong-un now? Is that that's the plan?
Trump also turned around and said that, Trump also turned around and said that Gaza is fantastic real estate, right on the water. It's got unobstructed views. The climate, the weather there is always perfect. So he's talking very much like Jared Kushner did about reoccupying Gaza and building townhouses and luxury living there. I mean, let's not forget, you also have, America and Israel, we'll say, against the world. I don't know, because here's the interesting thing. I don't even really know what the true relationship is between Trump and Netanyahu. I mean, Bibi's got his own mess to deal with right now. And the only thing that has absolutely kept Bibi out of jail himself, or certainly to be kicked out of office, was October 7th and the fight with Hamas. And now that, of course, thanks to whoever was involved in it, and I don't care if they're involved 1% or 99%, it doesn't matter. Anybody who had their hand in the return of these 3 hostages, I consider well done, good job, and you get a pat in the back for that one. I don't care. I really don't. I try to think as a parent, God forbid a million times, that it's a member of your family and it's over a year, it's like 400 days. You don't really care who picked up a phone call, who made the most phone calls. It doesn't matter once your loved one is back in your arms. That's how I feel. But I'll tell you one thing. Here. I don't even understand the reason why, and they're fighting for accomplishing what never should have happened. I hate to say it in the first place. So how about just turn around and say, mission accomplished? Why do people have to take credit? To me, I just didn't understand that.
That's the whole thing. I mean, Trump's whole thing is to blame his errors, mistakes, fraud on others, and take credit for other people's accomplishments. I mean, that's his thing. I mean, you're talking about Gaza, and a lot of Muslims and even Palestinians here in the United States, but Muslims generally, who it's a major issue for them, what's gone down in Gaza. But they voted for Trump. When you go to Dearborn, Michigan, large number. I mean, more
Pennsylvania,
far more voted for Trump than voted for Kamala Harris.
And yet, not to interrupt you, but Ben, it wasn't Biden's son or son-in-law that turned around and talked about reoccupying Gaza and turning it into condominiums and high-end luxury living, and yet they still voted for Trump on it. You got to give the guy some form of credit. He managed to bullshit and convince people of that bullshit. That's a hell of a superpower.
Or a hell of a super fraud. I mean, and Democrats were not successful in building the machinery necessary to call it out, and I think Democrats are like, well, of course, everybody knows that our policies are helping the unions and the workers and that we're looking out for these communities. So do we have to go and show up and deliver a cold pizza at the diner or at the fire station to act like we care? Yes, you do. You do need to do that. That's kind of part of the job of politics. It is obvious that when you deliver policies for people, our civics right now is such that people don't understand who's giving who what. So yes, you have to show up, maybe make the pizza not cold, and shake hands and look people in the eye, and ABC always be campaigning every day, and speak to the communities and let them know piece by piece, brick by brick. I'll show you this, Michael Cohen. We already know that Mike Huckabee, who's Donald Trump's pick to be the ambassador of Israel, doesn't even believe in the concept of a Palestinian state. You know, he goes, that doesn't exist. The Bible says it should be wiped out. I don't think it. I mean, that's Trump's pick, that Palestinian people, there shouldn't be a two-state solution. But let's talk about what Elise Stefanik said during a confirmation hearing today, where she was asked, do you basically agree with a far right-wing Israeli cabinet member's view that from a biblical perspective, the West Bank and all of Gaza really belongs to Israel? Well, watch this, because the people who voted for Trump, this is what you voted. But if you look into who these people are, this is who you voted for. Here, watch this.
And we warned you.
We warned you. Here it is.
Really surprised by answers in my office, but I did ask you whether you subscribe to the views of Finance Minister Smotrich.
Of who? I'm sorry,
Smotrich. This is the Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich and the former National Security Minister Ben Gvir, who believe that Israel has a biblical right to the entire West Bank. And in that conversation, you told me that, yes, you shared that view. Is that your view today?
Yes.
Okay. I think when it comes to this very difficult issue, if the president is going to succeed at bringing peace and stability to the Middle East, we're going to have to look at the UN Security Council resolutions, not just the ones on Lebanon, which we should enforce, but other UN Security Council resolutions. And it's going to be very difficult to achieve that if you continue to hold the view that you just expressed.
Cohen.
Yeah, she's, let's just say, probably not going to be the most revered UN ambassador that this country has had. Remember that there are a multitude of Muslim nations that probably see things a little bit different. But on the same theory, Trump is of the mindset that we should be annexing Canada. We should be annexing Panama, the Panama Canal, Greenland, Mexico. You know, when he went ahead, by the way, remember, I know Trump better than basically almost anybody. And when he turned around and he declared the cartels to be terrorist organizations, what he basically did is give himself the right to declare war on Mexico in order to combat these cartels. The only way that we can do such a thing is to use our military. And by declaring them terrorist organizations, we have the right within which to attack them. In essence, attacking Mexico. You know, we're in a very strange place right now. I'm going to say something that, as Ben, is maybe a little bit contrarian to what many of our brigaders want to hear me say and so on. I think much of what Trump is doing, these 100 executive orders, many of which are already being challenged in the courts, like the birthright citizenship or the creation of these internment camps. My whole life as the son of a Holocaust survivor, the thought that the United States would once again, because we had it once in our history here, that we would start building these internment camps for mass deportation. It's just, I find it repulsive. But with other things like the tariffs, which I also ascribe to the 27 of 29 top economists in our country that it is not going to end the way that Trump believes that these tariffs will. That it's going to create so much money for the country that none of us are going to have to pay any taxes, which I would love. That none of us are going to have to worry about the price of eggs or the price of gasoline. 25% from Mexico, 25% from Canada, and that's just the beginning. And starting all on February 1st. But what happens if hypothetically, and again, I don't think it's going to happen, but I like to play both sides because none of us have that crystal ball. What if hypothetically these tariffs actually create some sort of massive economic benefit to this country? Could you imagine from the desk of the Oval Office of Donald J. Trump, and it's going to be like an NBC program, put on by, what's his name? The guy who did The Apprentice. Could you imagine? All of a sudden you're going to hear like in the old voice of one of these television shows, from the desk of Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, here's Donald. And he's going to turn around and he's going to say, I told you, I brought money back to America. I went ahead and, we created $1 billion. We don't have a debt anymore. Could you imagine how Trumpism, the cult of Trumpism, will ultimately take over this country? Because we're seeing it even without any of these real benefits exposed. In fact, what we're learning is worse, that some of these things could end up throwing us into a recession. But my point is, what if it does go the other way? What if hypothetically it creates some sort of a benefit, or he rewrites it in order to make people believe that there is a massive benefit? Let me tell you something. I really do believe that Trumpism, that this cult of Trumpism could actually stomp on the Constitution and change it forever. And that's terrifying.
I agree. It's terrifying. I mean, and I understand, you're trying to see the perspective. What happens what if tariffs work? The historical experience, though, is that it will be devastating because for it to work, it depends on the countries that you're tariffing essentially to submit and give up their sovereignty. And what we're seeing actually is not a forfeiting of sovereign interests, but we're seeing countries stiffening their resistance. You see in Canada now, for example, the people coming together. In Mexico, under a very tough, powerful President Sheinbaum, kind of coming together. You see Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are sensing, I think, blood in the water here if Trump's going to start harming our alliances, and they want to build the BRICS bloc to be bigger than NATO. So they're going to go pick off NATO nations, right? They're going to go to Mexico. They're going to go to nations that are traditionally allied with the United States, though, and they're going to say, hey, you're an American ally, Mexico, or you're an American ally, Canada, or you're an American ally, Spain. You're an American.
What happens, Ben, if hypothetically, they start kicking out all of these migrants, and you start getting the Secretary of Media like they had during World War II for the Germans? What if hypothetically they start showing all this mass deportation and they create some sort of nonsensical number that shows the benefit of America saving money by deporting all of these? And we know that it's not accurate. We do know that they produce a significant amount of money. They actually pay taxes, many of them, not to mention they do jobs that Americans just don't want to do, which helps to keep the price of your strawberries and your blueberries and your blackberries down. But, what happens if hypothetically they're able to demonstrate and show and to convince the 50% of this country, the plurality of Americans that voted, that everything that Trump said was right? Because all we need is one or two of those, And he's going to make it seem as if though everything that he put forth is actually right, because he makes the success into the overall denominator. So you could have 99 things that went bad, but the one, it's 1/1, it's 100% success. And that's what he's able to do and to convince people. I got to tell you, again, my biggest fear is what ultimately happens under that circumstances. You know, as a kid, Ben, I don't know about you, but I loved comic books and so on. And there were always a series of comic books like What Ifs, right? And I was always intrigued by the what ifs. My favorite one, by the way, is what if it was the Waynes that found Kal-El instead of the Kents? So Superman would also be Batman, right? Because he had all the money and he's a giant playboy as opposed to this farm boy, right? It's a great comic book. You know, what if Superman was Batman, right? I mean, it's just, I always try to think in that what if, because none of us have that crystal ball. And that's where the danger lies. And that's why Trump was successful in this past election, because he made overt statements that, despite the fact, Ben, myself, all the folks on this network, Midas Touch Network, our Political Beatdown, my Mea Culpa, my YouTube channel. By the way, I hit more than 250,000 subscribers already, Ben. So thank you to all those who subscribe. But what if you don't have the crystal ball? And what if the comments that we're saying turn out to be exactly opposite? I'm telling you, the biggest fear is that the cult that we know as Trumpism right now becomes even bigger. MAGA becomes massive, and Trumpism ultimately will stomp out the Constitution. That's a big fear.
Well, you know what? This is where we fight every single day to get out the truth. While corporate media has bent the knee, kissed the ring, whatever. I mean, you saw the entire oligarchy literally sitting on the stage.
I know most of them.
Independent media is thriving right now. It's why, let's face it, he's attacked us before. He's going to continue to attack us. I mean, it was just such a strange sight to see that oligarchy, there. I mean, these are some weird people too, and I'm not trying to be like, talk about people's, whatever, but maybe I am here. They all looked like they were like tweaking out too. I mean, like you had Elon Musk doing like a lot of weird facial
what
stuff.
That?
You had Bezos doing weird stuff with his face also. You had Bezos's wife was like, her boobs were out and she was like wearing like a bra with her shirt opened and like exposing her breasts. Like it's just in the rotunda of the Capitol.
Well, I guess lucky for Zuckerberg sitting directly next to her, right?
I mean, yeah, but but it's like, what are we doing here? You have all the money in the world, but yeah, just so the audio viewers or audio listeners know what our viewers are seeing. So then Zuckerberg was like looking at her breasts during the inauguration, which she was she was wearing the like basically just a bra. And I mean, and I'm not trying to like say, I'm the fashion guy, I'm the sartorial guy. It's just the whole thing is so strange. And it's like you have all the money in the world, quite literally. You have billions of dollars, which is supposed to be, remember, billions of dollars. I don't even understand why you need billions of dollars, but what are people with billions of dollars called, Cohen? FU money, right? That's the term that these like billionaire bros, this is FU money. But it's not. You're weak. You're doing what Donald Trump tells you to do. It's not FU money. You're kissing the ring. You're submitting for what? So extra billions? Like you need that many extra billions? And then you show up so utterly classless and gross and weird. And so it's like, who are these? Like, it's just a strange crew that these are the people.
Mistake. You're making one mistake before I let you continue. It's not billions. That second row combined is trillion.
Yeah.
Trillion. I mean, I want people, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want people to understand what we're really talking about here. The baby billionaires, they were there too. Like the guy sitting behind, walking into the aisle every time Trump stood up, Steve Witkoff, real estate developer. He was also involved in the negotiation for the release of the 3 hostages. He's part of the envoy to the Middle East. He's a New York, Florida real estate developer, Vegas, Nevada real estate developer. He's baby billionaire, less than 2. The guy sitting behind him, Phil Ruffin. The guy sitting next to him, Ike Perlmutter. He owns Marvel. But these are the baby billionaires, and Ike is probably worth 10 or 12 billion. We're talking about that second row alone is $1 trillion. Imagine what somebody who is in the pocket of the President of the United States, who controls the conversation with the President of the United States, where their net worth combined is over $1 trillion. You know what it gives them the right to do? You talk about being weird, showing up in a bra, right? And the other guy staring. No, eyes up over here, pal. Eyes over here, right? Zook, take it easy there, buddy, with your perm. No. You know what you end up doing? You end up doing the Heil Hitler salute. All right? Because you know why? He thinks he can. He's so rich, he is impervious to anybody's comments about what he wants to do. And he didn't just do the Heil Hitler salute once, he did it twice. Imagine that.
We'll take a quick break right now, and after the quick break, we will have much more show. Let's take our first break.
I found a valuable tool that gives me insights to create a healthy metabolism for my body. And it's managed to improve other aspects of my life as well. And it's called Lumen. So what's Lumen? Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs, and it gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, and even stress management. Look, let me tell you how Lumen works. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for the day that's based on your measurements. And you can also breathe into it before or after workouts and meals so that you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Look, I'm not a kid anymore. My metabolism, it's not as fast as it used to be. Staying healthy and fit, it's much harder. So anything that I can do to gain an advantage, I'm interested. And here's why. So your metabolism, it's your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything that your body does, optimal metabolic health, it translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, and much more. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health. To the women out there, it also helps you track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause, and it'll help you adjust your recommendation to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so that you can keep your energy and stave off cravings. So my friends, right now, take the next step to improving your health and go to lumen.me/beat to get 20% off your Lumen. So that's LUMEN.me/beat for 20% off your purchase. And thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. When your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic with no hesitation. I mean, you need it, and it's not something most guys can fix themselves. Look, I know I can't, and men should think the exact same way about ED. But the reality is, you might be hesitant to seek help. Well, thankfully, through HIMS, you can get access to personalized ED treatment without ever stepping outside your door. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort, get a load of that, of your own couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable Hardmints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. You hear that? 95% cheaper. The process, it's also 100% online so that there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. What you do is you just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. And if prescribed, your medication, well, it ships directly to you for free. And there's no insurance needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Now, with hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works best for you. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/beat. That's HIMS.com/beat for your personalized ED treatment options. Again, that's hims.com/beat. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required, and price varies based on product and subscription plan.
As I've said before, you come for political news and you also get Cohen doing some ED ad reads. I mean, you really get it all here. Very versatile on.
And if you maintain that erection for greater than 3 hours, seek medical attention. Also, open the window and yell out and tell all your friends.
You know, if they were smart, Cohen, I mean, the universal they, I mean, I think your voice narrating that ad across, television shows would probably help it become a pretty good bestseller. I want to share this with you as well. Marco Rubio, a few hours ago, was asked on CBS about Donald Trump's promise, peace in Ukraine in 24 hours. Let me show you what Rubio said. Let's play this clip.
Secretary Rubio, one of the many things that President Trump said during his campaign run was that he would end the war in Ukraine on day one. That did not happen. How do you reconcile with the fact that he made a lot of promises and now it might be up to you and the team to keep these promises?
Yeah, I think the promise the president made, really, if you look at it, is it's going to be the priority. It's going to be the official policy of the United States that the war in Ukraine needs to come to an end. It is a stalemate. It's a war and it's a conflict that was started by Russia, but it is now a stalemate, a protracted and bloody conflict. It's been incredibly destructive. I would argue for both Russia and Ukraine, but Ukraine is paying the biggest price of all, to its energy infrastructure, to the people and lives that have lost, to the millions of Ukrainians that have had to leave their countries and are living overseas. The conflict needs to end. And it's a policy of the United States that we want it to end. We want to do everything we can to help it end. We're going to.
Notice how the benchmarks change. Now, actually, what Donald Trump promised was not what he actually promised. What he promised is that he simply would say that we would like there to be a resolution. So it's almost Cohen like creating a peace is a difficult thing. That when Trump was saying on day one, I would go to Putin, I would say this, I would go to Zelensky, and I would say, Zelensky, do this, and then I would make a phone call to each. You know the phone call that's been made? The phone call that's been made in the past 24 hours as a direct FU to Donald Trump was Xi Jinping and Putin. That was the phone call that was made in 24 hours. And the deal that was made in 24 hours was a deal between Russia and China, not a deal in Ukraine. And again, what's the corporate media headline right now, Cohen? This is from Politico from earlier in the day. The headline is Donald Trump is admit it. This is the headline from Politico. Time to admit it. Trump is a great president. He's still trying to be a good one. Admit it. I mean, this is some of the stupidest, dumbest propaganda that exists. The Washington Post headline, Donald Trump conquers Washington, D.C. The CNN headline, Donald Trump tries to push the boundaries of our Constitution to new limits. Broken, broken, broken. But what's really broken are his broken promises. I heard nothing about lower prices on day one. In fact, Donald Trump said, he goes, you know what? He says, Americans, they don't even care about inflation, he said. He said, what they care about is the mental institutions, the Hannibal Lecter. That's what they care about. Really? Because that's not the facts. We're going to hold him accountable here. But I guess let's first talk about the broken promise in Ukraine. That's a big broken promise. That's major, massive.
Are you trying to say, Ben, that the war is still going on?
It still is going on.
You know, it's
Michael.
funny because when I listened to Marco Rubio sort of stutter there, all I kept thinking was this.
That's all, folks.
Yeah. I mean, that's all, folks.
Is that not what you were thinking when he sat there? I saw his face like in the Looney Tunes box over there. Like instead of Porky Pig, it was Marco Rubio. First of all, pure horseshit. Complete lie. Complete lie. Well, let me tell you what Donald Trump was trying to say. As if we need Marco Rubio to tell us what we know Trump said. Listen, whether you like what Trump is saying or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether it's right up your alley or you want to kick it down the alley, irrelevant. You know what he's saying. It's almost obnoxious of Rubio to make a statement like that because it presumes that he's smart, you're stupid, he needs to explain to you what somebody is saying. I just find it so elitist. It's so this group that was sitting there on the dais. It's many of the nominees that have been chosen. For God's sakes, I don't need Marco Rubio. I don't need anybody to explain to me what Trump is saying here. He turned around and he said in 24 hours, he was going to put an end to the Ukraine-Russia war. In 24 hours, or even before, he was going to have all the hostages out. Now, some did come out. There was a ceasefire and that there's a plan. I get it. But that's not what he said. So turn around and say, okay, maybe I went a little bit too far, but it's on its way. I would accept that. I would actually acknowledge it, and I would turn around and say, yep. Well done to everybody that was involved, and you're now going to have this in your administration to finish it. It's been started. I don't know what percentage of 100 you were involved in this negotiation, but even if it's 1%, we say, thank you, sir. And we turn around and we say, now, what about phase 2? What about phase 3? That's under your administration. Or if it goes bad, you're going to blame that back onto the Biden administration? I'd like to hear the answer to that one. Marco Rubio. Beep.
Yeah, you know, there's serious implications here as well,
Yeah.
right? So right now, NATO, I mean, President Biden knew this, former President Biden knew what was going to happen here, right? So Biden tried to give as much aid to Ukraine as possible to get them through 2025. We also handed over our operations to NATO so that the NATO command is leading and overseeing the military systems in Poland, as well as taking the lead on Ukraine initiatives. And we've allocated as much as possible to help Ukraine get through 2025. But it's just lie after lie after lie, Cohen. And to your point, they're not ever going to acknowledge that they broke the promise. They will move on and they will rely on corporate media not calling them out and just saying, oh, maybe that is what you said. Maybe you did say 100 days, or that you would just announce that there could potentially be peace. Meanwhile, every single thing when Biden was in office, remember this, Biden came into office with somewhere between a 67 and 72% approval. But then right away, they started hammering Biden. No matter what it was Biden's fault. A baby formula shortage that was caused by Trump deregulation, Biden's fault. A car accident in Buffalo, they claimed it was some terrorist attack, which it wasn't, Biden's fault. A train derailment in East Palestine caused by Trump deregulation, Biden's fault. Afghanistan, Donald Trump cut a deal with the Taliban to release 5,000 Taliban terrorists. I think that's perhaps the only time Trump's released more terrorists than the January 6th ones, and insurrectionists, was the Taliban when Trump was going to be leaving office. And then Trump claimed that he couldn't withdraw the troops, which he promised to do. So the Taliban troops overran Afghanistan. There was no transition or smooth transition to Biden. So Biden took our troops out. And then Biden was blamed for the withdrawal because Trump didn't have the balls, guts, or Trump was basically setting Biden up. Everything. Oh, and then, of course, the economy, when Donald Trump adds $8 trillion in debt, recklessly prints money, the PPP program that forgave all of this debt to rich people without real checks and balances and oversight, where Americans who really needed the money most didn't really get that much. They got some checks with Trump's name on it, while the millionaires and people who were really rich got a lot of that PPP money with very little oversight, and it was very fraudy. What do you think causes inflation, though, when you recklessly print money and add $8 trillion in debt? But Biden had to fix it, and then Biden was blamed for all of those things. So Biden starts off with the 67, 72% approval rating, and then it starts slipping, because the American people, and this is what the corporate media was pushing, they were blaming the fire department for putting out the fire versus crediting the fire department and the firefighters for putting out the fire. They were being blamed for the fire that Trump created. Now, I think that Biden could have been a better communicator, but that's an understatement, but that was not what his skill set was. His skill set was fixing things and using his experience as an elder statesman. I think that the Democratic Party should have rallied around what he was doing. And there should have been a bigger effort to message that this was basically solving the fires that Trump created. But right now we're in a situation, Cohen, where Trump is starting with about a 41, 42% approval rating. They're trying to reverse Trump right now, right? What they're trying to do is take him from low and move him high with propaganda. It's why Donald Trump put those tech oligarchs in that front row, because the message is message the crap out of me, to your point, and pretend that things are great. The issue is going to be, though, when will the American people's recognition that the prices are not getting lower, will the American people's recognition that egg prices are up, housing's not more affordable, healthcare is not more accessible, education is worse, we're less safe, does the propaganda overtake that? You've identified it so perfectly. That is the battle right now, Cohen, right? And I think it's our job to reinforce to people your feelings are aligned with what's actually happening. Stop letting the propaganda and the Gulf of America, the Gulf of Mexico, I hereby say penis and vagina. There are two genders, everybody. That's what I want you to care about. We have to say, look, we're going to stand up for marginalized communities. We're going to stand up for transgender people, but also we're not going to get distracted. We're going to focus on the failures. Cohen, two-finger salute.
Yeah, two-finger salute goes to a lot of different people here. It's to the entire second row there, the entire second row of the Trump inauguration, just acting like just buffoons. And as you just said, turning and trying to recreate some form of lie that our media apps are going to continue to promote. It reminds me so much of like during the French Revolution. And there's a lot of arguments that this never even took place. It wasn't what Marie Antoinette said, which was let them eat cake. Because they are not hungry, because they don't feel the same things that we feel, that the average American feels, that therefore they can bullshit us because they're on a 500-foot yacht everything is great. Trust me. Look at me. I'm on the middle of the ocean in a 500-foot yacht, followed by a 400-foot yacht of my friends, right? It's like, let them eat cake because the people were starving. And again, that's not supposedly the way historically it happened, but it's a common phrase that a lot of people know. So to that whole group there that intends to use their apps, to use their money, their influence, their power within which to promote lies, to hurt you and me and the American people, no, fuck you all.
You know, some people in my life were asking me, what do these oligarchs want? I mean, they have all this money. What do they want? I said, you could only come to a logical conclusion that if the yachts aren't enough and the private jets aren't enough and the 10 mansions aren't enough and their plastic surgeries, aren't enough, and if all of the jewelry and gold and diamonds is not enough, what is going to fill their void? And I said, you come to the conclusion that they sometimes view that they view their success as a zero-sum game relative to the rest of us, in the sense that it's just not enough for them to be that wealthy beyond any money that you need for, frankly, centuries or even thousands of years. They actually want to see people suffer.
Yeah, it's
their happiness is sadistic, and their happiness is relative to our other people feeling like crap. And if Biden's stock market, 50% returns, 55% returns, those are good returns.
Yeah.
You shouldn't judge the economy by your market, but what is it that they're looking for, Cohen?
I can give you the answer.
Sadism, suffering.
No. Money and fame do not go hand in hand. They have all the money in the world. Think about Mark Zuckerberg showing up to Capitol Arena. How many people are going to fill the Capitol Arena to listen to Mark Zuckerberg speak? How many people are going to show up even for Elon Musk to speak? And the answer is not as many as that they're actually getting by driving and riding the coattails of Trump. So yes, they have all the money in the world, and yes, I agree with you. There is a sadistic element to it, but this is more about the fame that they cannot achieve, believe it or not, on their own. Yeah, you'll see them driving by in a Bugatti. You'll see them passing you in the waterway in a mega yacht, and so on. You'll see them flying over your house in one of their jets. Big shit. They can't fill a stadium day after day after day. Look at the way Elon Musk is behaving when he gets on that stage, like a kid in a candy store. I mean, he's jumping up and down. He's wearing a T-shirt. His belly's popping in and out. And he's loving it. Look at when you watch the other people in the Trump orbit dancing and shimmying as they get to turn around to the microphone so that they can announce, no matter how much money that these had. There's so many in that orbit that had, not now, but they definitely had before, much more money than Donald did. But they had no fame. And that's what they want.
I want to leave people with this inspirational note. The bishop of the National Cathedral spoke truth to power. And I want you to watch what she said as Donald Trump was attending the prayer ceremony. This was a very inspiring moment that I'll close us out on. Here, watch this.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those.
Powerful, powerful stuff. And Cohen, when I see things like that, the Bishop of the National Cathedral, and seeing Trump look so frazzled by being set by being,
and you see the look of J.D. Vance when he looked over to Donald.
I can't believe she's saying. I mean, what she was saying there are actual, whether you're religious or not, those should be universal principles. Have mercy on those who are marginalized, who are weaker than you, who are just asking for a chance. That shouldn't be a controversial concept, but we will fight here for all those people. We will do the best we can to give a voice to our democracy, to provide a forum for sharing truth and facts. And Cohen and I will do that each and every day here on the Midas Touch Network, on Political Beatdown, on all of our shows here. Everybody, I want you to hit subscribe right now here. We're on our way to 4 million subscribers. The Cohen YouTube channel is absolutely crushing it. Go to @TheMichaelCohen Show on YouTube. It's free to subscribe. You check it out, turn notifications on there and here, and watch Cohen's daily hot takes. Cohen knows Trump's maneuvering more than anybody, so you're going to want to get that insight over the coming weeks, months, years. And I want to remind everybody about Cohen's podcast, Mea Culpa. Wherever audio podcasts are available, just search Mea Culpa. Make sure you subscribe there. And then we're going to do a Patreon meeting soon. So make sure you subscribe, patreon.com/Political Beatdown. Cohen and I will figure out a great time where we can all meet and have a Zoom meeting. We'll announce it far in advance. Maybe we schedule it for next week. We announce it now so we get a good crowd there, so you can all plan in advance with your time, and we'll come up with the schedule for that. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you. Cohen, great spending time with you. Great spending time with the Brigaders. Shout out Brigaders. Shout out Midas Mighty.